I've been looking forward to this morning for most of the summer. I'm always happy when summer starts, but then the parking lots empty out, and the buildings are a little more empty. So it's nice to have everybody back for this new academic year. There's a little more noise in the hallway. Students begin arriving. Events start appearing on our calendar. Lots and lots of events appearing on our calendar. And at least for a few days, we can all convince ourselves that we have it all together. 4 years ago, I stood in front of many of you for the first time as the new president of Fairmont State. I told you a little bit about myself, talked about the kind of university I hoped we could build together, and I made 3 promises. I would tell you the truth, I would trust your expertise, and I would show up. Those promises have helped guide me through my time here, and they will continue to do so. And I hope most of the time I've lived up to them. I know there have been times where the truth is complicated. There are times where trusting your expertise has meant allowing people to try something new and occasionally watching as it doesn't work out. There have definitely been times when showing up has meant being 2 or 3 places in the same evening. But I wouldn't trade any of it. Because after 3 years, I know Fairmont State much better than when I first stood here. And more importantly, I know all of you better. I know the incredible talent that exists on this campus. I know how deeply you care about our students and how much pride you take in this university. And I know how hard you work, often in ways people don't see. So as we begin year 4 together, I want to add something to that promise. I have your back. I want you to hear that clearly. I have your back. That doesn't mean we'll always agree. It doesn't mean we won't make mistakes. It doesn't mean there won't be accountability when something goes wrong. And it certainly doesn't mean that every time you have an idea, I'll tell you it's brilliant. If you spend any time with me, you know that's not true. But it does mean that when you are doing good work on behalf of this university and our students, I will stand beside you. When you try something new and it doesn't work out perfectly the first time, I'm not going to disappear. When you make a difficult decision for the right reasons, you will not be left standing alone. And when people question the value of the work you do, I will be one of the loudest voices explaining why it matters. That's particularly important right now. Higher education is operating under an incredibly difficult environment. Across the country, people are questioning the value of education, its cost, its value, its priorities, sometimes even its basic purpose. We must be able to answer those questions. We should never be afraid of accountability, and we should always be willing to ask whether we can serve our students better. But some of what is happening outside of our campus goes well beyond healthy criticism. There are outside forces that are increasingly comfortable portraying universities, faculty, staff, and even the very idea of higher education as a problem that needs to be solved rather than a public asset that needs to be strengthened. There are financial pressures, there are demographic pressures, there are political pressures. There are people trying to tell the story of higher education who have spent 0 time experiencing what actually happens on a college campus. All of that means we have to be very clear about who we are and what we're trying to accomplish. We cannot control every conversation happening about higher education. We can't control every decision made in Washington or Charleston. We can't control every headline or social media post. But we can control what happens here. We can control whether our students receive an extraordinary education. We can control whether people across the state see Fairmont State as a partner. We can control whether this campus is a place where people are excited to work, and we can control how we treat each other. And that last one is particularly important, because if there's ever a moment when higher education needs its people pulling in the same direction, this is it. We simply do not have the luxury of spending our time fighting one another while the ground underneath higher education is shifting. This doesn't mean we stop disagreeing. Universities should and must be places where people disagree. You should challenge ideas. You should ask difficult questions. You should tell me when you think I'm wrong. You should tell your vice presidents, deans, chairs, directors, supervisors, and colleagues when you think we can do something better. But disagreement cannot become distrust. It cannot become a belief that someone who sees an issue differently must somehow care less about Fairmont State than you do. We're one university, not academic affairs over here and student affairs over here, not faculty on one side, staff on the other, not enrollment management, athletics, finance, facilities, advancement, IT, university police, or any other individual division operating as its own institution. We have different responsibilities, sure. We have different expertise, and we'll sometimes have different perspectives. But we have a shared goal. And one of the most important goals in our strategic plan is Fairmont State must be a great place to work. I love that part of our strategic plan because it recognizes something really important that I think a lot of universities forget. We cannot build a great university for students without building a great university for the people who work here. Those two things are connected. When employees feel valued, students benefit. When employees have the resources they need, students benefit. When employees understand what's happening at the university, students benefit. When employees trust one another and work across organizational boundaries, students benefit. And when talented people want to come to work at Fairmont State and want to stay here, we become a stronger institution. Over the past several years, we've tried to demonstrate that commitment in tangible ways. We've increased compensation and will continue to do so. We've undertaken the difficult work of addressing compression, inversion, and salaries that were significantly below market. We established a minimum salary for all full-time employees. We expanded tuition benefits. We made Falcon Center memberships available to our faculty, staff, and their families. We eliminated employee parking fees. We're leading the way in the state by developing a policy for paid parental leave. And yes, over the years, we've talked about everything from trash bags to paper towels. I actually like those examples, those last two, because I think sometimes when people hear the phrase great place to work, they assume we're talking about massive programs. Sometimes we are. Compensation matters. Benefits matter. Professional development matters. And opportunity for advancement matters. But sometimes a great place to work means fixing the little things that annoy each of us every day. It means making a process a little bit easier. It means making information easier to find. It means answering a question a little more quickly. It means recognizing someone's work. It means helping a new employee, and we heard we have lots of them, understand how Fairmont State actually operates. These small things accumulate. A couple years ago, I talked about an idea from the book Atomic Habits, that every action is essentially a vote for the type of person or organization we want to become. I still believe that. Every day we make a vote for the kind of university we want Fairmont State to be. So this year, we're going to continue casting votes to make Fairmont State a great place to work. One area where the university can be better, every university can be better, is transparency. When I say transparency, I don't just mean sharing the biggest decisions. I mean making sure you can find the information you need to do your job. Some of the things I hear regularly are some version of, I know that information is somewhere, but I have no idea where it is. Or, I didn't know that decision had been made. Or, my personal favorite, I think there was an email about that 6 months ago. Let me try and find it. An email from 6 months ago is not an information management system. So we're going to do better. An interdisciplinary team participating in the Fairmont Leadership Institute has developed a concept for a university intranet. I'm excited about this project because it came exactly from the type of collaboration we should be encouraging. People from different areas of the university looking at a common problem and asking, how can I make this better for everyone? The idea is to create a centralized internal home for information employees need. Over time, that can become a place you can easily locate policies, forms, procedures, resources, important internal announcements, all the materials that are presented to the Board of Governors, and other tools you need to do your job. It should help reduce the number of times someone has to know exactly who to call to find the answer to a question. Because transparency builds trust. You may not agree with every decision on this campus. I guarantee you won't. But you should understand why the decisions are made, and you should know working towards. And when possible, you should be able to find the information that forms those decisions. If we share the information, but you're unable to locate it when you need it, it isn't very useful to you. So I made a commitment 4 years ago to tell you the truth, and improving transparency is part of fulfilling that promise. Another area we're focusing on is the experience of people who are new to Fairmont State. Think about your first few weeks working here. Some of you had a terrific onboarding experience. Someone had you take you around campus, introduce you to colleagues, explain the systems, help you understand the culture, and make sure you had everything you need. Others received a key, hopefully a computer, and some variation of good luck. When I started, I actually didn't have a key to my office. I didn't have an administrative assistant. I was in that office suite all by myself. So I understand those of you who feel like it was sink or swim. But that inconsistency is something we can fix. Over the next year, we're going to develop a more intentional university-wide onboarding process for new employees. Individual divisions and departments will certainly have specific things new employees need to learn, but everyone who comes here should understand the institution they're joining. They should understand our mission, our strategic goals. They should know where to find help. They should meet people beyond their immediate office where they work. And from the beginning, they should understand they're not simply joining a department or a unit, they're becoming part of Fairmont State University. We want people to feel that sense of belonging from day one. And we're starting with a couple of simple things, right? As you heard, you can sign up for name tag or business cards. There's a station over here so people can line up afterwards and do that. And our office is going to pay for that on a President's Office Foundation funds, so the individual departments or individuals won't feel the impact. That may be small, and it is small, but the small things matter. If we ask you to go into the community and represent Fairmont State, we should give you the tools to represent us well. If you're attending an event, meeting prospective students and families, visiting a community partner, working with alumni, attending a conference, or simply interacting with people on campus, you should be able to identify yourself proudly as a member of this university. And you shouldn't have to figure out on your own how to make that happen. This is the mindset I want us to bring to that Great Place to Work goal. Ask what gets in the way of people doing their jobs and help reduce those barriers. Sometimes the answer will cost money, sometimes it will require a change in policy, sometimes it will require new technology, and sometimes it will be a 20-minute conversation between two offices that have been doing things differently for 15 years. But we should always be looking. I also want to challenge all of you to something. It's easy to think of a Great Place to Work as the responsibility of the president's office or HR. We certainly have an enormous responsibility in that. But culture cannot be delegated to others. I cannot write a policy that makes colleagues respect each other. I cannot create a program that forces people to celebrate someone else's success. I cannot issue a presidential directive requiring people to assume good intentions. And I cannot personally be in every hallway, office, classroom, laboratory, athletic facility, and meeting on campus, nor do you want me there. That part belongs to all of us. If we're serious about being a great place to work, we need to have each other's backs too. Support the person who's trying something new. Invite someone from another division to your event. When you hear a colleague doing great work, tell them you see them. But more importantly, tell other people about them. If someone makes a mistake, help them get better rather than reveling in their mistake. When a new person arrives in your area, don't assume someone else will make them feel welcome. Walk over and introduce yourself. Invite them to lunch. Explain the weird Fairmont State thing that everyone who's been here for 10 years knows, but nobody's ever bothered to write down. That's culture, all of it. One of the things I said during my first address is I wanted us to see ourselves not merely as members of individual units or individual departments, but as colleagues across the university. And I believe that strongly today. We need each other's expertise. We need each other's creativity. And sometimes we simply need each other's encouragement. I've been president long enough to know that every person on this campus has days when the work feels heavy. You'll have a difficult student interaction, a project that won't work, an event you worked hard for that won't attract the crowd you hoped for. Something will break, a budget will be tighter than you wanted, someone will criticize the decision you made, an email will arrive at 4:57 on a Friday afternoon that absolutely could have waited until Monday. Those are the moments when culture matters. Those are the moments when having each other's back matters. We should be able to look around campus and know that we are surrounded by people who want us to succeed, because the stakes of our work are simply too high for anything else. We're serving students to change their lives. We're serving families who are trusting us with their children. We serve communities throughout West Virginia that desperately need educated citizens, teachers, nurses, engineers, business leaders, artists, public servants, and entrepreneurs. And we serve a state whose future is intimately connected with whether or not institutions like Fairmont State succeed. I've traveled throughout West Virginia over the past several years, including 2 summers in the southern part of the state. First by myself, and then this past summer with 60 or so colleagues and students from Fairmont State. Everywhere I go, I hear the same things. Communities want partners. They are desperate for people who see their potential and are willing to help them develop it. They want people who will show up. It says a lot that I often hear that no one from higher education ever comes to their communities. They want institutions that care about their future, that care about our collective future as West Virginians. They want opportunities for their children and grandchildren. Fairmont State will answer that call. We are the right size to move quickly. We have talented people. We are investing in our future. We have academic programs that matter, and we have a campus that continues to improve. We have growing relationships throughout the state and region, and most importantly, we have people who believe that we can build something special here. That's why I remain so optimistic. There will always be reasons to be pessimistic about higher education. I could fill the rest of this speech with charts about demographics, federal policy, state appropriations, public confidence, and the countless other challenges that face universities. Those threats are real. We will confront them, but we will not let them determine our future. We determine our future. And I believe the way we navigate this moment is by being relentlessly focused on our shared goals. Recruit, retain, educate, and graduate students, and hopefully along the way make them better members of society. Build academic programs that respond to the needs of our communities. Invest in our people, improve our facilities, strengthen our financial position, serve West Virginia, and become the type of place where extraordinary people want to work. If we remain focused on those things, I like our chances. I'm excited about our future, and there's a lot to be excited about. I want to highlight a few of the things just coming up in the next few weeks and months. On Wednesday, we'll launch our first flight program for new Fairmont State students, and later that week, we'll launch Welcome Weekend for our returning students. All these welcome events can be found on the website, and I hope to see many of you there to welcome our students. On August 27th, we'll cut the ribbon for our new Nursing Simulation Center, the Rusty and Kimberly Hudson Family Beacon Simulation Center. It will be the premier center for nursing education. I've gotten a sneak peek, and all I can say, it will rival centers like it around the country. On September 1st, the Presidential Speaker Series kicks off with Raj Vinakota, President of Institute for Citizens and Scholars. It takes place in Wallman Hall, 6 p.m. All the Presidential Speaker Series events include days of visits from our speakers with a combination of class visits, student meet and greets, and meals with faculty and staff. This year's series include visits from Jean-Michel Habineza, founder of iDebate Rwanda, who will talk to us about reconciliation, former Governor and Senator Joe Manchin, our artist in residence novelist John Milas, plus our concluding event this year will be joined by Goonies, Rudy, and Lord of the Rings actor Sean Astin, although I'm told our students will know him from Stranger Things, so I've added that to my watch list. In February, we'll open Saxby's Coffee Shop on the first floor of the library. There's been a slight delay in construction of that facility, but we're delighted about the prospect of a student-run coffee shop right in the middle of campus. Additionally, library renovations will continue throughout the year, so we're excited to see what happens next. This just scratches the surface. There'll be events tied to our common read, Read Next by Taylor Brown. The Maskers, Fairmont State bands and choirs, along with Academy for the Arts, will fill Wallman with performances from September to June. Academic departments will host lectures, guest speakers, and presentations of student work. Athletics will host dozens of athletic contests, and student affairs and others will host hundreds of events for our students. Secret, most of those events are open to you all as well, so show up. I hope you show up for these things, not simply because attendance matters. Show up because somebody you work with has poured their heart into making that event happen. Show up because our students notice when faculty and staff are there supporting them. Show up because you may discover something happening on this campus you didn't know anything about. And show up because the more we experience Fairmont State together, the less likely we are to retreat into our own corners of the university. Every year I tell students that maybe I'm delusional, but I believe we can build the campus where support for each other lives. I know many of them roll their eyes, and some of you may too, but I've seen it happening over the past 3 years. When I stood up here for the first time, I asked you to build something with me. Today I can say with confidence, we are building it. But we're not finished, not even close. There'll be difficult decisions ahead. There'll be things that we try that don't work. There'll be outside pressures we cannot predict. There'll be moments when we disagree about the best path forward. But I am more confident today than I was when I first stood in front of you. And because of you, I have watched you care for our students. I've watched you build programs. I've watched you respond when our community needs us. I watched you bring new ideas forward. I watched you do things people told us could not be done. And I've watched you turn Fairmont State into a university that more and more people around the state and the region are paying attention to. So in year 4, I'm asking you to keep pushing. Keep imagining a better world. Keep challenging us. Keep trying new things. Keep showing up, and take care of each other while we do it. Have each other's backs. Beta guys, I promise you this, I have yours. When outside noise gets loud, I will defend the work we do here. When you take a thoughtful risk on behalf of our students, I will support you. When we succeed, I will make sure people know who did the work. And when things are difficult, I will be here. That's what being a team means. I told you 3 years ago, I wanted to be in this community for the long haul. Nothing I have experienced since then has changed my mind. Quite the opposite. I love this place, I love what we are building, and I love the opportunity we have in front of us. At a moment when a lot of people are asking what the future of higher education looks like, I want the answer to be Fairmont State University. A university deeply connected to its students and the community. A university relentlessly focused on its students. A university that trusts the expertise of its people. A university that isn't afraid to try something different. A university that's truly a great place to work. That's the Fairmont State we're building, and I cannot wait to see what we accomplish together in my 4th year. Thank you for everything you do for Fairmont State University. Now let's get to work.